There is a truth universally acknowledged, that a man in possession of a considerable fortune must be in want of a wife. Even though people may know very little about such a man's feelings or views, once he comes to settle in a neighborhood, this truth becomes so deeply impressed upon the minds of the families living around him that they consider this man as the rightful property of one or another of their daughters. One day, Mrs. Bennet said to her husband, "My dear, have you heard that someone has rented Netherfield Park?" Mr. Bennet replied that he had not. His wife continued, "Someone has indeed rented it. Mrs. Long went over there and told me all about it." Mr. Bennet listened without answering. Mrs. Bennet, losing her patience, said, "Don't you want to know who has come to live there? You are eager to tell me, I can see that." This was encouragement enough for her to go on. "Well, you must know. Mrs. Long has told me that a young gentleman, very wealthy, from the north of England, has rented Netherfield. He arrived on Monday in a carriage pulled by 4 horses. He was so pleased with the place that he immediately agreed to the terms offered by Mr. Morris, and he will be here before Michaelmas, September 29th, though some of his servants are coming ahead next week." "What is his name, Bingley? Is he married or single?" "Oh, he is certainly single. A single man with a large income, £4,000 or £5,000 a year. That's quite a good thing for our girls." "How is it a good thing for our girls? What has it to do with them?" "My dear Mr. Bennet, you must know that I am thinking of him marrying one of them." "Is that his intention in coming here?" "Intention? How can you speak so? The point is, he might fall in love with one of them, and so you must visit him as soon as he arrives." "I see no occasion for that. You and the girls may go, or perhaps you should send them by themselves, which might be even better. For as you are as handsome as any of them, Mr. Bingley might prefer you." "Oh, my dear, you flatter me. Certainly, I have had my share of beauty, but I do not consider myself anything remarkable now. A woman who has had 5 grown daughters ought to give over thinking of her own beauty. In such cases, a woman generally has not much beauty left to think of. But, Mr. Bennet, you must indeed visit Mr. Bingley when he comes. It is more than I engage for, I assure you. But think of your daughters. Only think what an establishment one of them might secure. Sir William and Lady Lucas are determined to visit purely for that reason. You know they never usually like calling on newcomers. Really, you must go. For, if you do not visit him, we cannot go at all. You are too cautious. I am sure Mr. Bingley will be delighted to see you. I'll send you with a few lines, assuring him of my hearty consent to his marrying whichever of the girls he chooses, though I must throw in a good word for my Lizzie. I desire you will do no such thing. Lizzie is no better than the others, and I'm sure she is not half so handsome as Jane, nor half so lively as Lydia. But you always have a soft spot for her." "They have none of them much to recommend them," replied he. "Mr. Bennet, how can you abuse your own children in such a way? You delight in vexing me. You have no compassion on my poor nerves. You mistake me, my dear. I have a high respect for your nerves. They are my old friends. I have heard you mention them with consideration these 20 years at least. Ah, you do not know what I suffer. But I hope you will get over it, and live to see many young men of 4,000 a year come into the neighborhood. If 20 such should come, it would not matter if you would not visit them. Depend upon it, my dear, when there are 20, I will visit them all." Mr. Bennet's character was a mixture of quick wit, sarcasm, reserve, and caprice, such that 20 years of marriage had been insufficient to make his wife understand his nature. Her mind was less difficult to penetrate. She was a woman of mean understanding, little information, and uncertain temper. When she was discontented, she fancied herself nervous. The business of her life was to get her daughters married. Its solace was visiting and gossiping. Mr. Bennet was among the first to pay a visit to appease Mr. Bingley. He had always intended to call on him, although he continually told his wife that he did not wish to go. It was not until the evening after his visit that Mrs. Bennet learned of this fact. While watching her second daughter trimming a hat, he suddenly said to her, "Lizzie, I hope Mr. Bingley will like that hat." Mrs. Bennet was displeased. How can we know what he likes, since we have not visited him? Elizabeth said, Mother, have you forgotten? We shall meet him at the next assembly, and Mrs. Long has promised to introduce us. I do not believe Mrs. Long will do any such thing. She has 2 nieces of her own. She is a selfish, hypocritical woman, and cannot be trusted. Mr. Bennet interjected. Nor do I trust her, which is why I am glad you have no intention of relying on her. Mrs. Bennet made no reply, but unable to contain herself, she turned and scolded her daughters. Kitty, do stop coughing, you must. Have some compassion for my nerves. My head is ready to split. Mr. Bennet added, Kitty coughs in a most inconsiderate manner, at all the wrong times. Kitty responded miserably. I do not cough for my own amusement, Papa. When is your ball to be held? He asked. In a fortnight, Mrs. Bennet exclaimed. So that's how it is. Mrs. Long will not return until the day before, so she cannot introduce him, for she won't have made his acquaintance yet. Then you have the advantage over your friend, said Mr. Bennet, for you may introduce Mr. Bingley to your daughter yourself. That is impossible, Mr. Benneton. I cannot possibly introduce a man I do not know. How can you jest about such things? I commend you for your caution. 2 weeks is far too short a time to become properly acquainted. One cannot know what to think of a man merely after 2 weeks. But if we are not bold, others will be bolder. Then we. In any case, Mrs. Long and her 2 nieces were eager to try their luck. If they did not make an advance, Mrs. Long might think the Bennets meant to stand aside, and she would seize the opportunity herself. The girls stared at their father. Mrs. Bennet only exclaimed, Nonsense, sheer nonsense. What do you mean? My dear, asked Mr. Bennet, do you mean that the forms of introduction and the anxiety attending them are nonsense? I cannot agree with you there. Mary, what do you say? I know you delight in thoughtful reflections, in good books, and in quoting from them. Mary wished to say something sensible, but could not think of anything. Mr. Bennet continued, while Mary searches for her thoughts. Let us return to the matter of Mr. Bingley. Mrs. Bennet cried out, I am quite fatigued with the name of Bingley. Am sorry to hear that. But why did you not tell me sooner? Had I known this morning how you felt, I certainly would not have gone to visit him. What a pity. But now, since I have seen him, we cannot escape the acquaintance. The astonishment of the girls was exactly what Mr. Bennet had hoped for. But Mrs. Bennet was even more surprised than her daughters. However, after a few moments of agitation, she was overjoyed. It was exactly what she had long wished for. My dear Mr. Bennet, how good you are! But I knew I would have my way in the end. I knew how much you loved your daughters and could not possibly overlook such an acquaintance. Oh, I am so delighted. You are such a tease, going off without saying a word, until now. Mr. Bennet turned to Kitty and said, Kitty, you may cough as much as you please, now. With that, he left the room, tired of his wife's excited outpourings. When the door had closed behind him, Mrs. Bennet said to her daughters, You see, girls, what a wonderful father you have. I do not know how you will ever repay his kindness. Even I do not know how. I will not hide from you that, at our age, it is no small thing to be making new acquaintances every day. But we are willing to do anything for your sakes. Lydia, even though you are the youngest, I am quite sure Mr. Bingley will dance with you at the next ball. Lydia declared confidently, I'm not afraid. Even though I'm the youngest, I'm taller than my sisters. And for the rest of the evening, they all speculated about when Mr. Bingley would call on Mr. Bennet in return, and discussed when they might be able to invite him to dinner. Nevertheless, Mrs. Bennet could not learn much about Mr. Bingley through her husband. Even with the help of their 5 daughters, they questioned him in every possible way, with all kinds of inquiries, fantastic guesses, and vague suppositions, but he evaded them all. In the end, they had to settle for indirect information from their neighbour, Mrs. Lucas. The news she brought was entirely favourable. Sir William was particularly well disposed toward Mr. Bingley. He was a young man, still quite youthful, very handsome, and extremely agreeable, Above all, he intended to bring many people with him to the ball. Nothing could be more delightful. A fondness for dancing was seen as the first step toward falling in love. So everyone was free to indulge hopes for his heart. Mrs. Bennet said to her husband, "If I could only see one of my daughters happily settled at Netherfield, and all the others equally well married, I should have nothing more to wish for." A few days later, Bingley returned Mr. Bennet's visit, and in the 10 minutes he spent with him in the library, he hoped to be allowed to meet the young ladies, whose beauty he had heard so much praised by others, but he only saw the father. The young ladies were luckier, as they could observe him from an upstairs window, noting his blue coat and the black horse he was riding. After that, there came an invitation to dinner, and Mrs. Bennet hastened to make many arrangements even before receiving a reply. Mr. Bingley, however, was obliged to go to London the next day, and could not accept. Mrs. Bennet was disheartened. She could not imagine that he had any important business in town so soon after settling in Hertfordshire. She began to worry that he might wander from one place to another without ever deciding to settle at Netherfield. Lady Lucas had to reassure her, saying that Bingley was only going to London to invite some friends to the upcoming ball. Before long, there was news that Mr. Bingley would bring with him 12 ladies and 7 gentlemen. The Bennet girls were distressed at the idea of so many women, but on the morning before the ball, they heard that instead of 12, he would only bring 6 people from London, 5 sisters and a female cousin. When the ball began, there were only 5 people: Mr. Bingley, his 2 sisters, his sister's husband, and another young gentleman. Mr. Bingley was handsome and carried himself with elegance. He had pleasing features and an easy, sincere manner. His 2 sisters appeared dignified, with a decided air in their behaviour. The brother-in-law, Mr. Hurst, was only moderately polite, but his friend, named Darcy, soon attracted the attention of the entire room with his tall figure, handsome looks, and refined demeanour. Within 5 minutes of his entrance, people were whispering that he had an income of £10,000 a year. The gentlemen thought he had an excellent build, and the ladies declared he was even handsomer than Bingley. For half the evening, everyone was disposed to admire him. Afterwards, however, his own conduct turned many people against him. They thought him proud, above his company, and unwilling to mix or enjoy himself with others. Despite his large estate in Derbyshire, his expression was deemed conceited and disagreeable, and he was not considered equal to his friend. Before long, Bingley had become acquainted with all the important people in the room. He was lively and unpretentious, danced every dance, expressed dissatisfaction that the ball ended too early, and announced he intended to host another ball at Netherfield. Between him and his friend, there was a striking contrast. Mr. Darcy danced only once with Mrs. Hurst, and once with Miss Bingley, refused to be introduced to other women, and then merely strolled about, occasionally speaking to a few people. People quickly perceived his character. In the world, perhaps, there was no man more disagreeable, and everyone hoped he would never return. Mrs. Bennet harboured the strongest resentment. She was angry because he had slighted one of her daughters. Since there were more women than men, Elizabeth Bennet had to sit out to dances, and during that time, Darcy conversed with Bingley while standing close enough for her to overhear. Bingley tried to persuade his friend to dance some more. "Come, Darcy,"